recording. All right, we're now live
Okay.
and now going live on Facebook. And yep, okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Okay. So I'm looking at I'm looking at you and I'm looking at my screen like this, just letting you know. The way my camera's set up, it's at a different angle. So, um, yeah. But all right, we're live now. Uh,
Okay.
and uh, I have Mike Felker. Did I say your name right?
Correct. You
Okay.
got it.
Um, should check that before we started again. I'm terrible. I mess up names. I'm like, I get it from my mom. She does it all the time. She even gets our names wrong sometimes. So
Yeah,
don't.
I always say yours right, right? It's Yeshua Holler.
It's yes. Whoa, yeah. So it's Yeshua. That's my Facebook name. My actual name is Joshua, but it's the same
Okay.
name. It's just
Okay.
in
I
Hebrew.
always wondered, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
I
I
know.
talk about you to my friends and my colleagues, I always say it that way. I'm like, yeah, because you're the only guy I know with that name
Yeah. Well.
or sound that way.
Yeah.
Joshua.
But I mean, either one is mine. Either one is Joshua. So I just had to make another Facebook. I had gotten this back when Facebook used to block a lot of people all the time. I had gotten blocked a lot, so I had to start a new one. And I just instead of doing Joshua, I did Yeshua. So and it,
It and stuck.
yeah. But uh, so we're gonna start doing a. I mean, every like we're gonna try and be kind of consistent, but it's whenever your schedule is good. But like talking about some of these issues in Indiana about, or I mean, not just the issues, but what we can do about it, or and then how to run for certain things, and kind of inform the citizen, right? Uh,
Yep.
so, but I know you said you were running for delegate.
Delegate. Yep.
Yeah. So like, why, and what does that entail?
Yeah, so running for delegate's really a very easy way to you can really do it pretty easily. You just get on the Indiana.gov or you just like Google the CAN 37 form. It's like standing for candidate 37, and that's your um, form to fill out. It's one page. It's pretty easy. You just fill it out, and if you don't know how to fill it out correctly, you can just take it in, and your um, person at the clerk's office the clerk can help you out fill it out. But so I'm running for Kosciuszko County at large. We have 10 at large positions right now. Looks like we have 10 people now who finally are filing for delegate. So you've got your comp controller for this year. It's at the the Republican convention is going to be held at Fort Wayne. I can't remember. I think it's June 19th, June 20th of this year. So, but we
Yeah.
got the comp controller, we've got the treasurer, and then we've got Secretary of State. So we're the ones who are going to pick the candidates for those three positions for this year, and because they're up for reelection. And so, comp controller, I don't think there's anybody running against her, and the treasurer, Daniel. Oh, I can't think of his last name. I should know it. And then you got Secretary of State Diego Morales. And then you've got two other candidates on the Republican ticket. I think Daniel Sherman or something like that is his name. And you got Jamie Rittenauer, who she ran for governor on the Republican ticket. So we go down there, which is important for us to, grassroots candidates
Yeah.
who hopefully are well informed on the candidates, and so we picked the right one, which is how we got Micah Beckwith over whatever name, whoever Ron wanted. We've
Yeah.
got the delegates are the ones who picked Micah Beckwith over what Mike Ron wanted. So that kind of we dodged a bullet there. The delegates did a really good job. So that's a really important position. Unfortunately, the party or the Republican establishment right now in Indianapolis is trying to kind of take away some of that power from the delegates. Like they're trying to have like super delegates essentially, so
Yeah.
only a select, like say 200 or
Hmm.
whatever would pick these candidates. Yeah, it's we'll see what the legislation happens, but it's in the state constitution that this is how it works. So unless they amend it, they're not. It ain't going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
so maybe they need to pick up the Article 2 of the Indiana State Constitution to read it because it lays it all out. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not just going to go change it tomorrow like they think they are.
Yeah.
But the public needs to know that, you know.
Yeah. I think they think that, well, with like anything else that they do, that since no, if you don't know it's wrong, then it's right. Pretty much is how they. It seems like that's what they do.
Yeah, but so on the delegate though, just FYI, so if you go, you download that CAN 37 form for the state of Indiana, and then you fill it out, or you go to the clerk's office, they help you fill it out. You can also find your information for your like what district you live in and all that stuff if you go online and look up your voting card, you know, your registration. If you're, but you have to one, you got to make sure you voted in 2 primaries as a Republican, and then you also have till January 6th at noon, which is what next Thursday, Friday, I forget, at noon
Yeah.
to file. And if you haven't filed by then you're kind of out of luck there. But you can wait till the next election rolls around. But so
Yeah.
anybody out there from Kosciuszko County, look me up in May. And I'm one of the you can select up to 10 candidates. Make sure I'm one of the 10.
Yeah. Yeah. If I could, I would vote for you.
Yeah,
But
send me down. Send me to Fort Wayne.
yeah, like we well, so we met and like I don't know if you know Jared, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
he he also was talking to me about the delegate thing, like, that he's gonna try and do that, and he said the same thing that you did. He's like, you should try it, and I'm like, all right, I'll see, which I'm going to, because I mean, why not? I mean, gotta get involved
Yeah, I
somewhere.
would. Yeah, and if I could send you the list right now. I don't know how many delegates you guys got. I think for us in Kosciuszko County, you're probably get more. I think there's about 2,000 for the state. So I think Kosciuszko, I think we get 30, but I know we get 10 at large, and then I think we have I don't remember 4 districts or something like that. So we get those get split up to make up the 30. So
Okay. And we met at Joseph Townsend's one of his events. I think I've seen you there several times. I think it was the last. I think it was during the Gover, the for Micah that
oh yeah,
I think it was either, don't remember. Maybe it was Jared who told me who you were. Because when I go to some of these places, like I don't know any. Like people walk in, and a lot of these people don't even look like their pictures in the like from their campaign. So I'll be looking
oh
at
yeah.
people like I don't recognize. And then there's some people I just don't know. And then you I used to have Eric on one side and Jared on the other side. They just point out and tell me who everybody was,
Oh
and I was
yeah.
like, yeah, and yeah, so like, but then I remember what sticks out to me is when Micah was there, we were both asking questions about like property taxes and pushing him on that. Uh, which like that's what stood out to me is like, oh, it's someone else that actually does care about the property taxes, um,
Yep.
and like the impact it does have. Like I know Micah cares. Like I'm not saying that Micah doesn't care. That's not what I meant to say. Like, uh, but like, I just, I don't know. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get tired of the excuses of like why we have to put the government first, and then if other people are hurt by that, then that's just the way it is for now until we can figure something else out, which is what we like is what is said normally by like everyone. So it's not just what I mean. So,
Oh yeah.
but they run on it. Oh, property taxes, and you understand this topic better than I do. So, like, like especially the Mike Buren's tax policy and stuff, and how it hurts us.
Oh, Governor Braun.
Yeah, Braun. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know how to say Buren. It's Braun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you?
he kind of hosed us on Senate Bill 1. Well, actually, he didn't really hose us. The Republican supermajority in the Senate, because they watered it down significantly into the 2025 legislative session, right? And that 300, and we ended up with $300. But you know what happened was on that Senate Bill 1 was, you know, the big cities started complaining, right? They started calling down, which this, so think about this. So this is what really people need to like get their brain set up. So the Indiana State Constitution, which they got to read it, they got to understand it, they got to know that regardless of what, if they serve in local, state, or whatever government, they are already sworn to uphold it, right? So they they like the city's leadership called and complaining about all the revenue that they're going to be, how are we going to pay, for this or pay for that. And so what happened was the Senate watered down Senate Bill 1 for uh, for us, and we ended up getting stuck with $300 or up to $300, depending on what your house is worth, right? And so I'm like, wait a minute, you don't work for the city of Warsaw, or you don't work for the city of Carmel or Indianapolis or Fort Wayne. You work for the people of Indiana. And so we come first, you know. And so what they did is they put the interest of the cities first and not the interest of the people, right? So I mean, look, it's a challenging environment to be in government, right? So either figure out a solution to the problem and listen to your people, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's, your their job is, as the government, is it's instituted for our peace, safety, and well-being. And who decides what our peace, safety, and well-being is? Does,
Yep.
Roderick Bray, the Senate pro temp of the Republican Party in Indianapolis, or do so people need to kind of get in that mindset where, like, hey, look, all political power is inherent in the people, and we have an inherent right to change or alter our government at any time. And those are the
Yep.
words of the Indiana State Constitution. I'm like, not my words. That's so they have to
And
abide by it.
everybody, and I mean everybody that owns a house, if you own property, like people who are like staying in, I mean, even if you're staying in apartments, but if you don't pay, like if you're on government housing or something like that, like you don't feel it as much as like someone who owns their property, or has like or even your landlords who own the property that you have if it's privately owned, right? um like our taxes went up a lot. Like if you own something, like that $300 doesn't mean anything, because like compared to when I first
Correct.
started coming here, and my property value when it gets valued always going up, no matter, like, even if nothing's really changed. And then we end up paying more, and it's like it's getting to the like it's getting ridiculous. And everybody says it. Like everyone I talk to, it doesn't, even if it's it doesn't matter if it's a Republican, a Democrat, whatever. If they own property and I bring up property taxes, like they all mention the same thing. Oh well, it keeps going up. I haven't really done anything, right? Like, or this year I'm
Yep.
paying a ridiculous amount. Like it does. It hurts the people, and like I mean, and the people. It also creates a gate of ownership. Like it keeps people out from ownership too, based off of their income, and because even if they can afford the house, that little $2,000 or whatever, and that you got to pay in property taxes that come around. I think it's like for us we pay like twice a year or something. I don't know.
Yep.
But like that's a lot at that time, especially if you just with your the increase in like the energy bills and all that stuff. Like it's creating a fence, and it's keeping people from being able to afford nicer places, or even fixing up their own place. Because if you fix up your own place and your value goes up, then you might accidentally price yourself
Yep.
out of your own house.
Yeah. Or your neighbor, oh,
Yeah,
now your neighbor's house is worth more because yours is worth more.
yeah,
We know that goes.
yeah,
Yeah. See,
definitely.
that's what what nobody understands anymore these days is government is only supposed to take what it needs. You know what I mean? So like, who cares that my assessment went up $30,000, which it did, almost 30 grand last year and then the year before. So $60,000 almost, it was like 58 and some change it went up. So 1% of that, according to the Constitution. So that's $600 in 2 years that I owe the state, a year more than what I'm paying now, right? Which
Yeah.
I'm like, but what they don't understand, what the public isn't remembering, because it's been 100 years since we thought this way, is government's only supposed to take what it needs, not what it wants, right? It's not like, hey, I can take, oh, Joshua, man, I want to take the full amount, man. He owes me $300 this year, more than he had last year, so I'm going to take all 300, and that's what they're doing. And there's supposed to be a burden, right? There should be somewhere where somebody says, hey, you know what? I get it. You're taking in $600 more this year than you took last year. Uh, I would really, you're supposed to, you work for me. All political power is inherent in the people and is founded on our authority, Indiana State Constitution, right? So, like, hey, county, hey, state, you need to tell me why you need more money than you took this year than you took last year, you know? And
Yeah.
so, but
But
no one's asking those questions.
not just that, but you also have to prove to me that you're not wasting money, because the the
Oh, they're wasting it.
the thing that kills me is they're like, oh, we're low on this money and we got to raise property tax. But what did you do with the money? Like, where'd the other money go? Like, show us where the money is going, because you're wasting. And then you're doing these housing projects, or different cities and counties are spending all this money and like public private
Economic
partnerships.
development.
Yep. And I'm like, but then you're telling me you don't have money for the roads. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So like, you shouldn't be spending the money on these other projects if you can't do your basic responsibilities.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah, that road bill last year was atrocious too. So,
yeah,
um, it I forget exactly what it was too. It was like Senate Bill 1457. I'll have to look it up here a little bit, but there's a lot of municipalities, like, we got hit pretty hard with that bill, because now they're talking about tolling Interstate 70, right? I don't know if you've heard that.
yep,
So the General Assembly gave them the opportunity to do that, and so
that's great.
um, Indianapolis, they're getting pretty hit pretty hard. I forget, it's pretty substantial. I mean, if they did it to Indy, they can do it to us, but they're significantly raising their excise and wheel tax on the city of Indianapolis. I mean, it's going to say from like $80 to $150. I mean, you
Oof.
have to read it; it's all in the bill. And they're also there's also, I forget how many municipalities. It's in the bill. If you read it, I wrote it down. I wish I would have had it in front of me, but I don't. But it talks about how many municipalities and how many cities out there and counties that do not have a wheel or excise tax, that they're going to have to, or they're going to have to pick up more percentage of their road maintenance versus what the state picks up. You know what I mean? So, like, where I live, I'm Kaskasco County is on the hook for 75 or for 25% of its road maintenance, and the state pays for 75%. Well, if we don't raise our wheel or excise tax, which is in the bill, then boom, the state's going to say, hey, look, we're not paying this the 75%. We're only going to pay, say, I'm just throwing numbers out here. We're going to pay 65%, and you're going to pick up the other 35. And what do you think they're going to do? We're not paying, another
Yeah.
10%. We'll just raise the taxes on the consumers, or on the people, and
Well,
then we get. I mean, it's just, and
well,
people aren't just paying attention. And these are the people from our own team that are doing this.
yeah. If, and also, if they would just price the jobs correctly and pay what should actually cost, and not two times or double that, because like government pays way more than it has to for like even just basic supplies. Um, and I know this because I've heard several people who actually supply some of this stuff to the government, and they try to like they say that like I can get this for you way cheaper, but the government's like nah, like, and then they overpay for everything. So
Yep.
like, uh, even just to do the roads and stuff, like the money that they're wasting to do that, like instead of getting a proper uh, bid for the job, you know what I mean? For like what it should cost, what it would cost, like the average, not even just the average, but normally would cost for that much material or whatever, and then to fix the road. Like government always pays way more than it needs to. So, um, and I like when I say that, like I know that it's not just my opinion. Like I know people who have done jobs for the government and are and do the supply and provide supplies for the government, and they all tell me the same thing. So then I know like this is how I know that like uh, like they're just wasting our money. And they say and then they do it so that they can keep uh, I don't whatever the rule is where like if they have a certain budget, right, and they have to spend all that, make sure they spend all that money or more to so they can keep that budget. Otherwise, they lose it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
what that's. Yeah.
so like that drives me nuts because like well if you don't need that much money you should lose it. Like the goal actually that should be a bragging point. Like hey, we came under our budget for this year and we were able to do everything that we are supposed to do and we're actually gonna need less money. So like your stuff is gonna go down this year, or you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
uh, yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling. Um, uh, we talked a little bit about energy and like the cost of energy. Uh, I don't know if you wanted to, like, would you like to share how this is? Like, could you a little bit of like how?
How it
Uh,
works.
huh? Oh,
I'm thinking how it works. Like
yeah, yeah, how it
where does the
works, how the
authority
price
like?
is being raised, and then
Yeah,
also
because
your plan. You have a, or if you want to talk about your plan, but how you would fix it.
yeah. So well, right now here's the deal. This is what cracks me up. There's a couple bills. So last year there was a bill that went through for those reactors, those small nuclear reactors. I tell you, oh, where did I put that at? I got it in here. But so they passed it. I mean, it went into law. So so when your your energy bill gets raised, so the General Assembly, the Indiana General Assembly, right, the state and the senators, right, the House representatives, so 150 people are like, hey, you know what? We're going to give our authority. So we're going to, it's a charter, is what it's called, to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Like they created this organization, right? So the General Assembly created them. They're the Consumer Protection Agency, right? So most people don't get this. So like NIPSCO, for example, Northern Indiana Public Service Company, right? That's who I get my energy from. I don't
Yeah,
have any choice in the matter, but they're getting hit pretty hard right now. But so they requested a 22% increase on all NIPSCO customers, right? And I'm like, holy cow, 22%. Now, mind you, most of the public doesn't know this because they don't, everybody's busy. They don't have time to worry about this. But
yeah,
anyways, our representatives ain't going to tell you because it's not even a consideration in my opinion. So, anyways, they asked for 22. They ended up with 16.75. So let's round it up to 17% is what they got. And anybody who has a brain knows that, NIPSCO or whoever didn't ask for 22 on purpose, as an accident. They didn't want 22. They knew that, hey, we'll ask for 25, 22, whatever, knowing that we'll get close to what we really want, you know?
yeah,
So anyway, so it's a progressed increase. So it's not like all 17 at once, but it goes in stages. But anyways, so that's how our energy keeps going up. But what people don't understand is, well, I'm sure they do, but like nobody advocated at the General Assembly level. Nobody did, right? Not one state senator, not one state representative went and knocked on the IURC's door and says, hey, we granted you the charter to be the Consumer Protection Agency, and you're telling me you're going to settle for 17%? Well, that's not good enough for my constituents. That's too high. I mean, nobody said, hey, that's that's excessive. That's my district are all NIPSCO customers, and I can't be having I mean, no one advocated for us for one, right?
yeah,
And I think that's because they don't even think that way, right? It's not even a consideration, something that they even think about. But so anyway, so last year in the 2025 legislative session, they were talking about all these. We've been talking about building all these um, data centers and all that they want to do. Well, so they were talking about these small nuclear reactors that they were going to use to supplement the energy because they consume so much energy and water, right? Well, so they passed a bill, Senate Bill 424, right? This is hilarious. And so what NIPSCO and all these other customers can do is they could say, or utility organizations could say, hey, we don't have enough money. We want to build, say, 4 of these reactors. It's going to cost us this much money. So they're putting all this to paper and they're giving it to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. And they're saying, hey, so this bill allows them to ask permission to raise our utility rates so they can get the money to build the infrastructure, right? To get the material, to buy their infrastructure, to do all this, right?
Yeah.
So they're not even built yet, right? So, and then it also states in the bill, basically, I mean, it doesn't say it just like this, but you have to read between the lines. So basically, what they're saying is, let's say they want to build 4 of them, but they only build 2, but they build you and me, right? They raised our rates to get enough funding for 4, but they decided, we're not going to build 4, we're only going to build 2. Well, guess what? It doesn't say that they have to give the money back. It just says that, even if they don't do it, they can still do the rate increase. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what? So, and then, so now, fast forward to the 2026 legislative session, right? Now they're saying, hey, consumers are complaining that their rates are going up, right? I'm like, well, yeah, Senate Bill 424 last year, you signed in the law, Governor Braun, Republican,
Yeah.
Democrat people, you all passed this. So now you're saying that we need to know, we're telling you what our rates should be, and that we need to know that our rates aren't going to go up all the time. But I'm like, okay, but what about this bill that you just passed last year that says that they can raise our rates a couple times a year, you know?
Yeah.
And now you're trying to pass another bill saying that, well, we're not going to raise rates. They need to let you know when your rates are going to go up, but they can't be doing it more than, once or twice a year. Yeah, I mean, they're contradictory. So you got a bill here that they screwed us on, or that they, you know, uh, really rear-ended the
Did he
state.
not read it? Maybe.
Who knows? And so, and again, the problem is a lot of people don't read the bills either themselves. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you're not going to get some representative who's going to go out there and talk about it to their constituents, on the down during the legislative session, or even after that, for that matter, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not, it's not a positive. They can't really put a positive spin on the legislation.
Yeah.
So they're doing it all the time. But
Yeah.
but
But
I've always said, with reference back up a little bit to property taxes, that and I was thinking this the other day, and I've never really thought of it this way. So, do you remember back when Indiana gave everybody we had $6 billion sitting in the rainy day fund? That was during Governor Holcomb's time. I think it was in 2023 or 2024. I don't remember
yep, I
what year
remember
it
they
was.
talking about. Yeah.
Maybe it's 23, 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there. Anyway, so if you're married, you get 225. So there was $6 billion sitting in the rainy day fund. So money that was not allotted or appropriated for nothing. I'm doing the math. I did this a couple months ago. We could eliminate property taxes right now for every Hoosier who has their private home for private use. We could take it takes about $5 billion. We could build our own natural gas plant, produce our own energy for the people, not for corporations, not for business, that can power every home in the state of Indiana for $5 billion. 5 billion. It's natural gas. People are like, well, why don't we use nuclear? Well, you're talking 30, $40 billion.
Yeah. They're
Well,
not.
I
There's
don't
the
want
regulations
we don't
too.
have that kind of money sitting around. And then when you
Yeah.
want to decommission it, right, in 100 years, it's the cost is astronomical to tear it down and to store it. So we do have natural gas in Indiana. So, anyways, that's just one idea, and we could do that for the people, right? So the money that we get for the energy, it would be like your electric bill. That would cover the cost of the state's 47% that they're losing out of the budget for property taxes, right? So, I mean, everybody thinks that, oh, the only way we can get property taxes or money to fund education, the 47%, which comes from property taxes, is through taxing everybody on their personal property. Well, I one believe that property taxes are. It's not that they're unconstitutional, but it is for private use, for private homes for private use. They just have to read a SCOTUS case from, I forget what it was called, Bershaber versus Union Pacific Railroad. Chief Justice White said it's all on the usage, and so we're not. I'm not using my house as a business. I'm not making money. I'm not. It's not making me money. It's not, I'm not, I
Yeah.
don't have a black,
Yeah.
a shop or something that my house is to make money. So there should be no reason why anybody who has using their private home for private use should be paying property taxes. I believe that's totally unconstitutional or against the Indiana state constitution, because the definition of a constitutional right is a right that's guaranteed under the Constitution to all citizens that prevents legislative interference therewith, which means you can't legislate anything against any right. And if you
Yeah.
go to the original Indiana state constitution, I'll hold it up here. Article 1 specifically says that you have the right to own and the right to property. And so it's a
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's it's a right in every state. You know what I mean? So um,
Yeah.
uh, we
It's not
just
necessarily.
forgot. We forgot or whatever, and our great grandparents were like, "Hey, yeah, the state needs money." And back in those days, when my great grandparents were okay with property taxes, it was probably $50 or $20
It's
back in those
probably,
days. I
yeah.
don't know. It was
Nothing.
back in the early 1900s. So
Yeah.
now it's a 2 months of your pay, and
Yeah.
so it's out of control. But
It's
but the
it's
energy
way out of
thing, we
control.
we can do some things there to shore up our energy. Obviously that's the future, anyways. It's where it's taken. I mean, we got to have more energy. We don't even Indiana doesn't even get all of its energy usage from. We don't even all the energy that we consume. We buy some of it off the grid from California or whatever out west. So
Yeah.
we don't even produce enough to sustain ourselves here in Indiana. So I mean, we got to think differently. Think generationally is what I tell people. No
Yeah.
one's thinking generationally in the General Assembly.
Well, and that's it's actually, I mean, that's one of my big things with property tax. I mean, a lot of different taxes, but property taxes mainly. Like, you should be able to own your property, and nobody, like, be able to take it from you, right? Like, I mean, obviously, except for like, I guess, was that eminent domain or something like that. If it's something necessary for like this, it's like emergent. But even then, I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
eh. But
right. Yeah. Well, read the Indiana State Constitution, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh, but it's uh, like even so, like when I read the founders and stuff, and then like property taxes to me, like the pursuit of happiness. Because if they can take your land, like if I lose all my money, what should be able to happen is I should be able to hit a hard time and fall out on everything else, but still have my house, like still have a roof over my head, still be able to have my land. And but the way it's set up now is if I fall on hard times for long enough, they'll take my land too. The government will take my land and sell it, and then I'll be homeless. And like to me, that's ridiculous. Even the Bible. So like if you go, uh, so like whether you believe in God or not, the ancients or people in Israel, it was and from the Bible standpoint, from God, right? Uh, he said that that you can't move someone's property stone, and then that like if it's your property, it's your property.
Yep.
And then even the story, I forget what the I think Bathsheba was one, but the king, and he was with I don't know if it was Bathsheba. I forget what the lady's name. They always Jezebel. That's what it.
Jezebel.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was
Yeah.
with
She's the one that
Jezebel.
got ate by the dogs.
Yeah, yeah, and she was with the. I forget what the king's name was, but he went to the vineyard of a guy, and he
Yes.
was like, I want this vineyard. Or I forget, was it like I think it was a vineyard, and he's like, I want this land,
Yep.
and the guy said, no, I don't want it, and or I don't want to sell it, and the king went home, and he was sad, and then like basically Jezebel was like, oh, well, you're the king, da, da, da. And they conspired, killed him, took his land, and that's when God sends the prophet and tells him like, yeah, you're gonna be eaten by, like
Yep.
you messed up. So God, and then even when Moses and the children of Israel were wandering, and you could even go back to Abraham too. Like God will tell people, like, oh yeah, you go this way, but if this people tells you can't come through, then you can't come through. Like that's their land, that's allotted to them. Like you gotta obey what they say when you're trying to. So if you can't pass through, you can't pass through, or you don't go here and try and fight with these people because I'm not gonna give that land to you. Like that's their land, or like. Uh, but we see in the Bible that like when it comes to territory, personal property, and ownership, it is very protective of that, and which is why like of course in America, because I know people like to deny it, but like a lot of our laws and stuff are very heavily influenced from like those big biblical
Yeah.
concepts and principles. So
Yep.
yeah. So to me, property taxes, whether even if you can't say they're outright unconstitutional, I would say like I'd say like if you're a free person and you're talking about and you're for the people, like no one's gonna take your like you don't want anyone to be able to take your land. That's the freedom because that's the place that you own. Like, um, and
Yeah,
let
because
oh go ahead.
we're
Sorry.
afforded what it's called due process of law, and
Yeah.
a lot of people. I mean, one thing I've done the last 2 years or 2 plus years is like I study the Constitution, so the words actually mean something, and you have to go back in time to at the time that they were written to know what the words mean. So like you look up due process of law, and so like they can't just take your stuff. You're afforded a elected judge, a judge that's elected by the people. It's not like some kind of, hey, you're a special judge, prosecutor, you're now a judge, and throw this robe on and you're a special judge. No, you are afforded a judge that's elected by the people. You're afforded a jury of your peers, and guess what? It even says in the Indiana State Constitution, it cracks me up too, because a lot of people don't understand that. It says, in all criminal cases, wherever the jury shall have the right to determine the law and the facts. So they can't say, hey, we tell you what the law is. I mean, they could tell them, but the jury is the one who says whether the law is just or not.
Yeah.
And so and then you have the due process of law, which means, okay, so now you've got your jury, your peers, an elected judge, and then it's what they call the settled maxims of law, which are basically phrases that have been
Yeah.
factually true over years and years and years. Most people don't understand it. So if you look up the word, maximum of law, you're going to see the word uh, whatever it was I just said. Good Lord, I'm rambling here.
Next. Uh,
Due process of law. So that word due process of law will come up with the maxims of law. So,
and a lot
I
of
mean,
times if
that's
you do common like if you study common law, and if you I mean
correct.
I've read a few books, and they also mention the maxims of law as well. So like that's where I first ran into that, and I was like, ah, like what is this? Like yeah. So um yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Yep, yep. I'm just kind of reading as you're talking. Trying to find some of that specific verbiage in here, but no, I know it's in Article One somewhere, but it's really interesting. Once you get down to the meat potatoes of it and understand that, you're afforded a lot more, but we don't have, the representatives. I would say in the state of Indiana, yeah, they might say they swear and uphold the state of Indiana's Constitution and the federal Constitution, but they don't know it. They don't read it, and you could tell because some of the crap that they're passing, with
Yeah.
like the Senate Bill One, and some of the stuff from last year with the roads bill, because they're not, it even says specifically that we are Article One, Section 31. It says that the no law shall restrain any of the inhabitants of the state from assembling together in a peaceful manner to consult for their common good. Property taxes. How we or whatever energy, and nor from instructing the representatives, nor from applying to the General Assembly for redress of grievances. I mean, this is all old stuff that they did back in the day that we just totally forgot that we can do today.
Yeah.
And but
I mean,
you're
I
not gonna
think
have anybody
it's
go home and tell their
partially.
people like, "Hey, I work for you." Actually, no, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah. Well, you see, like I think it's partially on purpose because like public schools and stuff, like COVID. So like, you know how they bring their laptops home and stuff for like during COVID. They had them start. They started doing the,
All right,
um,
e-learning.
yeah, e-learning. And I was listening to one of the like the history things, and I swear, like every other sentence was like the government did this and the government did this and this is how the government fixed this. And like I remember like I was either I can't remember if it was my son. I think it was my son. I was like, no, no, no. Like, let me show you in this other book. I think it's about the Great Depression. Like, let me show you in this other book how the government caused it, and then
Correct.
tried to
Yeah.
fix it, and ended up kept making it worse. You know what I mean? Like, until finally, it eventually corrected itself. Like more or less. That's what happens when it comes to like economic downturns. They're often worse because of government and not better. But like, yeah, that's fun. I think it's intentional, the dumbing down of people, uh, being put in the position of like the government's in charge, and you're subject to them, and not the other way around, right?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
I think that's hammered into people for a purpose, so that like they don't ask questions, so they don't resist the will of whoever is in government trying to create this or that. Like, I think it's on purpose.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, like right now, it's really odd. It's frustrating because I'm trying to, I'm going to be running for public office again next year, probably for sure. And so I'm just trying to get spun up on all the legislative stuff that's been going on, which, I was pretty abreast on 2025, now 2026. I mean, it goes by so fast, and I don't think people realize how much, what's actually happening in the state of Indiana down in Indianapolis, how it's affecting us, because in your pocketbook, especially, and
Yeah.
we just assumed, and I was one of those people for many years that I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing a good job, they're doing a good job, and they're not doing a good job. They're spending a lot of our money and they're giving it to economic development, right? So they're using public money for private usage, right? So I mean, think about it. I mean, it
Yeah.
cracks me up that people are like, well, they're looking at all the jobs they're hiring. I'm like, yeah, dude, where's my cut of that? So
Yeah.
they're taxing us, they're giving it to a corporation or a business, which, I'm for corporations and businesses, but I'm not for taxing me and giving it to them because now I'm an investor. And then where's my return on the investment? Oh, I know where the return on my investment is. I don't see it. The
Yeah.
state sees it. The state gets it, right? It's a scheme. They
Yeah.
take your money, they give it to whoever they want, and then they hire good paying jobs. We always hear that word, good paying jobs. That's code for economic development. That means you're the investor, you get zero return on your investment. Now, the corporation business, when they start being profitable or whatever, getting on their own 2 feet or whatever it is, the
Yeah.
Googles and whatever that we're giving money to,
Yeah.
they're the ones who are getting the return on the investment, and we're not. Like we just gave $33 million to the Pacers family to so they can build a. You and me just gave them $33 million. The Governor Braun just gave it to them.
That's
Without asking us, and said, "Hey, here, Pacers family. You know, you're $1 billion people, and you're going to spend $304 million on a restaurant slash um, hotel. Here's $33 million for doing that. And by the way, they're gonna bring in 200, hospitality jobs into the city of Indianapolis. Well, how is that going to affect me? You know what I mean? We're,
yeah.
so they're taxing you and they're giving it to some people down who don't need 33 million bucks, and then they're giving them tax abatements, right? So not only are they getting cash, but they're getting money, they're getting tax, hey, no property taxes for a while,
Yeah.
just like that SB 27 with the Bears thing. 35 years of no property taxes.
Hey,
35
where's
years.
mine? Well, I want a tax.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So if you go back to the Indiana State Constitution again, right? Government is instituted for our peace, safety, and well-being. I'm like, dude, it isn't for the peace, safety, and well-being of the corporations and businesses. Sorry. I mean, I sound
Yeah.
like a politician here, but like, look, seriously, if we want to help corporations, we help them three ways. One, make sure they pay property taxes, but make sure they're low. And two, make make sure energy is cheap, right? And don't regulate them out of the state. Don't
Yeah.
put undue
Well,
regulations on them. And then
like I
boom, you
don't.
don't need to give them money, you don't need to give them incentives, and you don't need to give them tax abatements for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And that's what
Yeah.
we do.
Well, I mean,
Wash, rinse, repeat, man.
under a certain size, like a corporation under a certain size, like if it's a large corporation, and also if it's like local, like so like I honestly like for most businesses and like especially like contractors, like I don't think there should be any like a property tax for businesses like for like locals like to me like the place
Well,
like
they're
if
in
we make the
commerce. It's in
place
the Constitution.
you said what
They're commerce, so they are in the Constitution. So they are publicly regulated.
oh
You
no
got to remember, a lot of people.
I'm not
Yep.
saying that. I'm just saying, like, in theory, like, I don't think they should. Like, I think when you create a landscape, like, cause where you can let business flourish, where you can let the market flourish, right? Without, cause like, as long as I've been alive, like, Republicans, even like, they always talk about, uh, uh, oh, we got to bring in these, this business or that or whatever, and then they give them these special breaks and stuff like that. But I'm like, well, why give them the break if you're gonna make them not pay tax anyways? Like, why have the tax in the first place? Like, why not
Right.
let everybody not pay tax? And then imagine what like the production of things, like the amount of other companies that are just gonna come here anyways because there's none of that same regulation that you have, and then the hoops to jump like if you really want to bring jobs here, then like don't have a tax. Like don't have a property tax. Don't have a business like. And then people will say, well, how are you going to pay? Like the same way, it's going to bring in revenue. Like it's actually going to create like. And we see this around the world. The places that have the least amount of like corporate tax and all that stuff, that's where businesses set up their shops, right? And then
Right.
like if you did that, that's why I'm for freedom. Like I'm far right in American right. In America, the right is if you go far right, all the way right, there is no government. Everything else, if you go left, that's where you get fascism and all that stuff. Like that's in America. Like I don't know about Europe, that's different, but here. So like I'm not an anarchist. I don't believe in no government, but I'm really close because the more I see how regulation like especially as a business owner every time like new regulations and stuff and I see the cost that it cost. I've watched businesses around me go out of business because they can't afford the new regulations, but the regulations always benefit the biggest corporations. So like
Well,
uh
they have the lobbyists.
yeah.
They've got the power of the lobbyists.
Yeah, so if you really want to even the playing ground, like remove that stuff. And the only thing the government really should be doing there is like making sure that like obviously nobody's cheating, no one's forcing someone out of business. Like back in history how they used to like the owners would hire thugs and stuff to go put out a rival company or whatever. Like yeah, the government's job is to stop that the other owner and protect you from having to put up with that, so that you can do business in your field or whatever without being harassed. Like that's the job of the government. Everything
Yep.
else, like like we would make more money. We always see this when we lower taxes, when we remove regulations. States and places make more money, not less. People pay more taxes, not less. Instead of trying to avoid it, if you only had a certain tax that everyone paid, everyone would pay it, and they'd be able to keep the rest of their money, right? Like, and if the government would actually do what it's supposed to do, like there would be plenty of money for it to operate. But since it wants to do everything else that it's not supposed to do, build houses, all this, while at the same time they're the same regulations that they're talking about. Uh, there's limited housing. Like I can promise you that and I almost guarantee it that like some like there's regulations that are keeping it from new housing and from it being affordable for like just the average person, right? Like if we got rid of those, like the government wouldn't be in the business of building houses, but they create the problem and then they try and give you a solution that is less than optimal. So sorry, that's my little rant. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what Reagan said. Government isn't the solution to our problems. Government is the problem.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah. So like, but again, I that's why we have to have an informed citizenry. The people, because again, all like if all political power is inherent in the people and government is founded on the people's rights. I mean, it's founded on the people. I'm like, all that stuff that government's doing It's because we're allowing it. You know what I mean? We're like we've kind of I call it, it's called acquiescence. We've agreed to it without agreeing to it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we've stayed quiet. We've saved. We just kind of gave up and just we're too busy.
Silence is
You know, and yep. And so it's it's everybody. Believe it. I mean, but again, you don't have. I think we just need some good representatives out there who aren't
I
afraid to go out in their districts, you know, spend time out there educating the people, letting them understand. A lot of people don't even like we talked before. A lot of people don't even didn't even realize we even have an Indiana state constitution, and if they did, they sure as no one's read it. And
yeah.
it's not a relic because every member of uh,
Yeah.
of Congress, whatever, everybody swears to uphold it, right? They don't swear to uphold some statute or whatever. They uphold the Constitution, and so we just don't hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, which I think
It's
like it should be mandatory. Like I think because I think our schools don't focus on like the important things. So I like to me instead of just being a class in school, like learning this stuff should be something like from middle school all the way up into high school. It should be a main focus so that you understand your governmental system. And not just like George Washington and then like the founders and
right.
they did the Constitution and then they hit like the amendments kind of and it's kind of like this brief thing and if you do learn anything it's always federal. It's very rarely is it about state and how it operates.
Yep, correct.
And then your local, so like there's so much that like they should have to learn, like not just federal, not just state, but also your local, because like every city has its own rules too, or operates a little differently within
Well, yeah,
its.
that's what all these lawyers and stuff, people who go to court or whatever, like you're saying, people lose their houses and stuff.
Yeah.
It's because, I mean, like, you go to Bloomington or whatever, IU or whatever, to go get take the bar or whatever, to go to study to be a lawyer. And they don't study the constitutions, I mean,
Yeah.
because everybody's living in a statute land right now, I mean, this isn't some like stupid sovereign citizen crap. This is just like, hey, what's the text of the Indiana state constitution? It's the law.
Yeah, it's the
It's
law of the
it
land.
trumps all of the other crap. And we just people are just kind of they're too busy.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, we are kept busy, but like that's. It's kind of a circle thing though. Like all right, so like the stuff the taxes and all the other like pressures that are put on us and then and then rents are going up as well, so people are now they're working 2-3 jobs to pay their normal what like uh like my dad and before that they were able to do it on like a regular ass paycheck, right, and then
Yep.
still take vacations, whereas like
Yeah.
after all my bills are paid, I'm like, well, there's no, unless I
Right.
work
Yeah.
another job, there's not going to be no more extra money. So
Yeah.
it's it's great. Like it's so like they're busy because again, I think it's in like it almost becomes intentional. Maybe it's not, but like the more burdens they put on you, and you have to deal with all these burdens while then also trying to figure out like what they're doing down in Indy, right? Like it's a lot. I'm not saying it's not an excuse because you have to do it, otherwise, like it's over. It's game over. But
Yeah. We'll get ran over.
yeah. But that's why I say like, there has to be a reformation, like a of the school system too, like because that's where it's gonna start. Like if you want to what all right real quick trying to think of the word if you want to not undermine um oh my gosh, it's a spy thing, like countries do it to undermine if you want to
Propaganda.
no uh basically if you want to disrupt a society, you go in and you start with the youth and then you
Right.
indoctrinate them, but that's not the word I'm looking for. It's another word. And that's how you change it, and then it takes
Right.
to undo it, it takes 10 to 15 years to even undo it, because then you have to start over with new kids, because adults, like, once they get older, people change their minds, but it's less likely, especially once you're set in your ways. So like, we have
Brain
the next 10
brainwash.
years. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying, you thinking about brainwashing? Was that the word you're looking for? I don't know.
It's what
Yeah,
it's involved in it, but that's not what it's called. It's the Russians. So, like, people used to say, like, everybody thinks that Russians were, like, in, like, the spy
oh,
stuff, but they
yeah, the
invented,
Communist Manifesto.
huh? Or no, not just that, just the technique. It's a technique I'm trying to think of, and, like, people think that they invested more money in spy stuff, but they didn't. They actually, it's oh my gosh. And then as soon as we get off of here, it's gonna hit me. Uh, but, like, they invested more money in that in the United
Right.
States to undermine our children, and then to build what we're in now. Like, this is the realization of a lot of those efforts, not just theirs, but also Marxists in general. Like, so, um, I can't think of this. But we have to do is we have to start teaching it. We have to start now teaching it to the kids and stuff, and then get as many adults as we can. But then, like, there's just so much to do. Like, it's a lot, and
Yeah.
it
But again, you got to remember too. Like you think about just your local stuff, right?
yeah,
Who's in charge? Who elects who elects the school board? The people do,
yep,
right? And so then, who works for the school board then? Does the school board work for the people, or do the people work for the school board? Right? I mean,
yeah,
and so, and then what cracks me up is that then the school board, hires a superintendent, and the superintendent runs the school board. I'm like, no. I mean,
yeah,
it's just because we don't know how government works, right? And just another caveat, I was just thinking of, how many people do you guys? I mean, I don't know if people even understand this, but since January of last year, 2025, the dollar, the $1 bill has lost over 11% of its value, right? So, I mean,
yeah,
we complain that, hey, I got to work more to because I got to pay more. But that's because I'm like, dude, the Congress is abusing the spending clause, right? Article 1, Section 8, where it talks about
yeah.
the the the, the power of the purse, and and to
But
pay for the debts of the United States, yada yada yada,
yeah,
and the general welfare of the people. Well, it doesn't say anything about abusing the spending, does it, in the Constitution? So I mean, just something to think about. That um, what was it last year? And I'll
well, yeah,
shut
the
up
big
here.
beautiful bill that was supposed
Yeah,
to cut, but they spent
yeah,
a ton of money. Like, uh,
yeah.
and
House
we all,
Resolution One.
huh? What?
House Resolution One.
Yeah, yeah. And like, when it's Biden in charge, and then it's all that stuff, and he wants to spend a bunch of money, Republicans are like, oh no, like, look at this and how that. And then when it's a Republican in there, not just Trump, like, it's not just Trump. Like, if you go
Right.
back, you
It don't
can,
matter.
yeah. They're always like, oh, well, well, we had to spend all this, and it's like, it's a shit ton of money. Like, that's more money than, the last guy. Like, and they just print it out
Yeah,
of thin air. Like,
it was like $42,000 a second back in, I'm gonna say, like June of last year, and now January now, 2026,
yeah,
it's like $76,000 a
God
second.
damn, a second.
A second, a second that's going toward the debt. We're paying a trillion dollars just in interest payments right now.
Yeah,
I mean, the United States right now, and this is what people need to understand, is they do have the influence and leverage. They just don't realize it for some odd reason. But
uh,
we're sacrificing our future for today, for the present, right?
yep,
Countries like Russia, China, and everybody, they're sacrificing the present for the future. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And we're taking our children and giving them a massive amounts of debt. So we're fine. So
yeah.
we're not bankrupt.
I say that all the time, and I get people get so angry, cause I'll put
It's
people,
true.
yeah, and I'll say the last generations, like, because they're the ones that are still alive that you could talk to, like the last two. So I'm like,
Yep.
oh, well, it's your guys' generation that sacrificed my future, my children's future, and their grandchildren's future. And I'm like, and so like when I speak out against, Social Security and these big bills, and you guys like get on me, I'm like, no, no, I'm trying to be different. I'm actually trying to save to do the opposite. I'm willing to sacrifice for the next generations. Like, because if we keep going this way, there is no America. Like and of course the next generations are gonna hate us. Like, because we're gonna be when America finally falls, it's gonna be our fault because it didn't matter who was in power. We still spent the money. We still spent their future. Um, and it would like it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. But like even on the inflation, like the government, the dollar losing its value, Indiana can do something about that with it's called voluntary
Yep.
currency. And if you create voluntary currency, like just to set it up, it is a very good. I mean, it doesn't break the rules because like gold backs and stuff that people have. Like I think I forget what the state was. It's like Idaho or something like that. It original, or was it Utah? I don't know. Goldbacks, but you could have a voluntary currency, and if you set it up so that it can actually be easily used and get people, because it takes was it Edward Bernays? It takes propaganda and stuff like to get people to use products and as well. But if you can get people using that secondary currency, like and set up the system, if the not only can you fight inflation, could you fight inflation by circumventing
Right.
the dollar essentially? But should the dollar fail, you already have a system where your citizens can still buy food and all of that. Like to me, that's the stuff that the lawmakers should be doing. Like especially like state legislatures. Like your state is what's important, not the other. Uh, like um, the big companies and all that stuff, and then trying to get money. Like, no, no, like you should be doing something to set up so that your people will be good in hard times. And it's not even like I used to think like, oh, well, maybe it's too hard, but now that I'm like a little older and I'm starting to look like there's a lot of common sense things you can do that that would like, uh, I mean, the people would love you. Uh, like it
Again, you're
just
thinking generationally, which is something that doesn't happen. I mean, people just, we're just stuck with this 100-year-old system and they wash, rinse, repeat,
yeah,
patterns and trends.
yeah,
Government is really good at patterns and trends. And once you kind of identify those, you see that, man, like, holy cow, dude, no wonder why we're, spending half of our money or more on getting taxed, holy cow,
yeah.
and,
And
because
it,
they keep giving it away to everybody but us. We're making everybody rich but the people.
Yeah, and we'll wrap it up after here, like here in a few minutes, because I think it's 8:08. Unless you want to keep going, uh,
Yeah, we can close it up.
yeah. But a last note on the tax thing is that taxes aren't even necessary, or well, in MMT, it's modern money. Or sorry, now I can't even say it. But MMT, it's a theory of basically money and control. It's like it's the way that we're going, how we're setting up our system with especially with the digital currency and stuff like that. Taxes aren't
Yeah,
important. They don't care about taxes because they just print the money out of like the government is run off of printed like thin air money. But what the
yep,
taxes do is it keeps you locked into the dollar and you have to pay in their currency and it keeps control over you. That's in MMT in that theory, like, and that's where the global elites and uh, I mean, America has adopted or is building the infrastructure and going that way. Um,
modern monetary theory.
yes, yes, monitor. Yes, thank
I
you.
I was looking it up while you were talking. I've
Yeah,
heard of it. Yeah,
yeah, and because there's several books, and because Glenn Beck wrote a book on it, on like globalism, and then he talked about that, and then I went and I looked because he names about different like in the books that they write, and he reads from them and stuff, and like they all agree, like taxes have nothing to do with running the government because they can, as long as you own. So like for America, since we own or the Fed is here and it's the American dollar that the majority of the world is on, right? You can print as much money as you want, and then taxes are only to be used to control the populace,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Because then they have to use your dollar. There's no way out of it. You can't pay in gold or nothing. You have to use the dollar. So, um, yeah. So like to a lot of these people, like taxes, they don't care about the tax money itself, but it's just a way of like controlling you and keeping. I
Well,
mean,
we weren't. Yeah, we didn't. At the beginning of we didn't pay taxes. It was all foreign. You know,
yeah,
tariffs and articles on for import. Right. Yeah, there's just, man, I tell you, there's a bunch of rabbit holes we could go down, but like, you
yeah,
think of like seriously, if you read the constitutions, like the FBI, for example, they don't have a charter. They were created by the Department of Justice, right? The Congress is the one who creates the charter, just like the Indiana state government, right? Like I'm a business, I want to start out, I'm a business owner and I want to start a business in Indiana. I ask the government, for permission because it has to be for the public good, right? Whatever I do has to be for the public good.
yeah,
And so if it's not, then I don't get my charter, right? So like the General Assembly grants the charter for somebody to have a business in Indiana, right? And
yep,
so it's the same thing with because that's how the Constitution has it set up, right? And so like you think about the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, right? They weren't created by the Congress, the legislator. They were created by the Treasury. And
yeah.
then I think if I remember right, it's Indiana, uh was it Indiana Code like 16 or something, if I
Uh,
remember correctly. I can't remember what it is, but if you read it, it's only on article, their job is to make sure that they're paying taxes on articles of foreign import, right? Stuff coming in from abroad, coming into
yeah,
the United States. Doesn't say anything about taxing your income.
yeah,
Again, if you go back to the constitutions, you have the right to your uh, gains of industry, is what it's called. I mean, go back and look at the word. What does
yeah.
that mean? Gains of
Well,
industry. Well, you have to go back in time to when the Constitution was written to look and see what it means.
if you
So,
look at the
you,
presidents and past governors
yeah,
and as well, so like the
yeah,
way they look at the Constitution is it's more of a suggestion, and that the like, and that's like we start seeing this like FDR, uh,
yeah, yeah,
Roosevelt, uh,
yep,
like where like they start Woodrow Wilson or yeah.
yep,
It's a whole bunch, and you would think that well then eventually Republicans, but then even Lincoln, it was still more of a suggestion than anything else. Um, like he pretty much did what he wanted when he wanted to do it, and then they kind of caught up to him, like especially when they suspended the rights, habeas corpus, isn't that what habeas corpus or
habeas
whatever?
corpus.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he kind
yeah.
of did it, and then
Like how the
Congress
heck
later
you?
on,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah,
So like, the Constitution has been taught to us as more of a suggestion than the actual law of the land.
yeah. Well, you got to be able to get people to challenge those rulings and people to understand that they technically can. They just need to know how to do it. And
Yep.
there's a group of people that I work with, and they've taught me a lot of this stuff. And again, it's not sovereign citizen because some people are like, "Oh, it sounds like sovereign citizen nonsense." No, it's not. It's the text of the Indiana State Constitution, and the federal Constitution, and I mean, if you
Well,
can read, you know,
yeah.
it's the text. Yeah, read the text, and that's the law, right? And then if you go look, especially now, Justice Thomas, Scalia, when he was, who else am I thinking of? Gorsuch, when he talks about a lot. Amy Coney Barrett. So they're like kind of the ones who kind of come out and talk about it a lot. And so all these things, that people just have to understand what the rights are, read what the Constitution says, and it's guaranteed then, and it's guaranteed today.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
what I what
and plus we're at a time in the union's history where we don't need guns to remove government. You know what I mean? People are like, "Oh, we're gonna have a civil war," blah blah blah. I'm like, that's not we're civilized now, and we have the Constitution. We just need to go through the courts and declare them, if people get in our way. And
I,
so we don't
I
need
mean,
the violence and this that.
I don't know about that because I mean, we're not gonna not. I'm not disagreeing because that's how it should work in theory. Like, but they also pick the judges. They pick. There's lots of things that you can read in history where the courts did rulings that clearly unconstitutional. But if no one's there to,
Right. Challenge
it
it.
doesn't matter. Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
that's the only issue. Is like I completely agree with you. Like the way the system should be set up and work in theory. Yeah, it should be civilized. We should be able to remove, but like we, I think the guns are just as relevant today without hinting at anything weird, but just as
Right. Yeah.
relevant
You're right.
today as ever because the government seems more lawless uh, today. While you can watch everything, you can look at everything now, and they're still
Right. Well,
doing
I
what they
think the
want.
pen. They always say the pen's mightier than the sword, and I'm man. The more I read and understand that's basically how they set the constitutions up, and I'm like, man, it really is that way. Um, but we just need to
Throughout
again. We got. I
COVID,
mean, we
where
got
they like
100 years
march
of
and
where we forgot
push.
all this stuff.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said like COVID when they like the police were out there and they were pushing people and finding people and they didn't have even though the law some of the places it wasn't even like law. It was just like a mandate of something. You know what I mean? Like it didn't and
Right.
some like
We didn't stand on our rights, man. We didn't stand on our rights because we didn't know them.
well and that's true. But like when it comes to force, because government the authority of the government is force always. So like I believe that like the pen is mighty, but sometimes a bomb or a gun is because most artists don't become famous till after they're dead, or martyrs don't
Yeah.
become martyrs until after they're killed, and that's always by not always, but a lot of times that's from the government, and even
Yeah.
then sometimes that doesn't shift. Like people can be killed, and then the government just shifts it in a way that benefits them and
Well, the constitutions are utterly worthless, man, unless it's known that the people will make sure that the representatives or whoever the government stays within the constraints of the Constitution.
I
You know what I
agree
mean? But
100%.
again, and that's what has to happen. And once
Yeah,
people get informed and they understand these things, then I mean, but that's what I want to do if when I run again. That's my been always been my plan is to make sure that I have the most educated and informed district, and then hopefully that spreads throughout the state of Indiana, and
yeah,
then we can work on being good citizens of the state and you know take our state back,
yeah.
and
Be
make
be
sure that
good
these
rulers instead of servants.
correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We're not supposed to serve them. They're supposed to be serving us, but
yeah. But
that
they,
clearly ain't the case. It's not, it really isn't the case. And they may can sit here and tell you to your face, but yeah, okay. You're not listening to me and telling you public enemies number one is property taxes. And you gave us 300 bucks in the same bill, in the exact same bill, you gave the state or the local governments the ability to raise your local income tax 1.2%
uh,
because we know you're not going to read the bill anyways. And then when you do see your representative, they're not going to disclose it,
yep.
because that look poorly upon them, and that's just not how
But,
it works.
but yeah. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up because yeah.
Yep. All right,
Uh,
man.
but hopefully a week or two or not, you can come back on if you want. We can talk about some more.
Okay, great. Yeah, and this has helped me too. So it's hopefully people can watch this and kind of get a little bit informed on what's going on in the legislative session instead of hearing about it after it's already been passed into law, and then there's nothing you can do about it at that point. So,
Yeah.
all right,
Oh yeah.
good talking to you, man.
Good
Take
talking to you as
care.
well.